Maya Carter found the folio folded into the back pocket of a jacket she hadn't worn in months. It was the navy bomber Ethan kept for just in case. The one with a faint oil stain on the cuff and a zipper that sometimes stuck. She had been looking for a pen and had slipped her hand into the pocket to pull out a stray receipt for the grocery store. Instead, she found a hotel folio, the paper soft from being folded, the boutique hotel's logo embossed in tasteful grey. Her name was printed in block letters, Maya Carter. Below it, a room number and a time, room 412, 1103. 11:42 p.m. there. Was a charge for a late-night minibar and a line item for incidentals. The folio had been signed with a hurried scrawl that could have been Ethan's. She sat on the kitchen floor and let the paper tremble in her hands. The house around her, framed photos, a potted succulent, a stack of unpaid bills, felt suddenly like a stage set. Ethan's laugh came from the living room, where he watched a documentary about jazz. The sound was ordinary and obscene. She did not confront him that night. She waited until he fell asleep on the couch, then took his phone from the coffee table and scrolled. Messages from a contact labeled Ray blinked, coy, then practical. Cash tonight. I need it. There were calendar entries for client dinner and receipts for gas and takeout. Maya called the hotel. The woman at the front desk listened with professional neutrality. Yes, we had a guest check-in that night, she said. Room 412, the guest signed as Maya Carter. Maya's hands went cold. Did you see who signed? She asked. We have CCTV in the lobby and the elevator, the clerk said. I can pull footage, but we need a subpoena for anything beyond a courtesy check. Maya folded the folio and slid it into her pocket. She would not accuse Ethan without proof. She would gather facts. Maya left the folio on the kitchen island where Ethan would see it. He read it and tried to be casual. Maybe you checked in and forgot, he said. I don't check into hotels without telling you, she replied. He offered a plausible story. A client had used her name as a joke. He'd signed to avoid an awkward conversation. Clerical error. He sounded practiced. She believed some of it and not all. She wanted to trust him. The folio's weight made trust feel fragile. When he left for work, Maya called Detective Rowan Price's non-emergency line. She did not want to escalate, but she wanted the footage preserved. Rowan arrived with a calm that was not indifference. He took the folio, asked measured questions, and said, We'll pull the hotel footage. The hotel manager produced a hard drive and a password. Rowan's tech copied the files. The elevator camera was grainy but clear enough to show a man in a dark jacket stepping out on the 4th floor and walking toward room 412. Rowan froze the frame and zoomed. The profile, the slope of the nose, the shoulders, looked like Ethan. The visible time stamp in the corner read 11:03, 11:42 p.m. The clip showed the man entering room 412 and leaving alone 20 minutes later. Rowan's voice was careful. This is evidence. We'll verify the footage's integrity and check the camera's metadata. Maya wanted to believe the footage was a mistake, but the folio and the elevator clip matched too neatly. The house felt staged. June Park loved the small, stubborn details. She ran video authentication at a regional lab and had a reputation for finding what others missed: a duplicated pixel, a dropped frame, a timestamp rewritten. She took the hotel hard drive and ran it through her tools. File headers, camera firmware logs, server time syncs. Everything at first looked consistent. Then her software flagged an overwritten block in the elevator camera's metadata. Decoded, the overwritten bytes revealed a different time, 10:12 p.m. The footage had been recorded at 10:12 but relabeled as 11:42. Someone had altered the visible timestamp. June called Rowan. The timestamp's been doctored, she said. The file was altered. Rowan's face hardened. Who would do that? Someone who wanted to place Ethan at the hotel at a specific time, June said. Someone who wanted the folio and the footage to line up. Rowan subpoenaed the hotel's logs and Ethan's phone records. The cell tower pings arrived as a spreadsheet of coordinates and times. At 10:12 p.m., Ethan's phone pinged a tower near the downtown theatre, the sector covering the hotel. At 11:42 p.m., the phone pinged a tower near the riverfront 2 miles away. The phone's internal GPS showed Ethan at the riverfront at 11:42. June cross-checked the phone's internal logs and found a brief remote access session at 11:30 p.m., a short window where the phone's data could have been manipulated. She also found evidence of a SIM swap attempt earlier that day. Phones can hand off between towers, Rowan said. But this looks odd, June suggested, checking for cloned devices and spoofed IMEIs. The technology existed and was cheap enough for someone with motive and resources. The case had moved from domestic betrayal to a technical puzzle. Liam Rhodes, a reporter with a nose for motive, dug into the hotel's ownership and the town's politics. He found a developer, Hale and Mercer Development, pushing a controversial riverfront project. Councilman Peter Hale had been lobbying for approval. Ethan, as an urban planner, had publicly criticized aspects of the plan. Liam's instincts told him to look for a motive beyond marriage. He found a contract. A PR consultant, Harlan Voss, had been retained by a holding company tied to the developer. The contract language was careful. Community stabilization, message alignment. But invoices showed payments to shell accounts and to a small audio duplication shop. Liam called Maya. If someone wanted to derail a vote or discredit an opponent, planting a scandal could be effective, he said. Maya felt the folio had opened a door into a campaign. Rowan and June visited the audio shop. The owner, Harold Finch, admitted to duplicating tapes and doing edits for cash. He produced a receipt, a flash drive paid for in cash the week before the folio surfaced. Harold's hands trembled when Rowan asked about custom edits. "I was given a flash drive and told to splice clips together," Harold said. "I was paid cash. I didn't ask questions. The flash drive's metadata traced to a courier service. The courier's manifest showed a pickup from a downtown office that matched an address linked to Harlan Voss's firm." Rowan's list of suspects lengthened: a consultant with motive, a fixer with cash, a duplication shop that did the physical work. Surveillance from a nearby convenience store showed a man with a similar build and profile to Ethan walking past the hotel at 10:05 p.m. A private investigator found a temp worker, Marcus Lane, who bore a resemblance and had been paid cash for a night shift at a nearby venue. Marcus denied involvement, but his bank account showed a deposit the day after the folio surfaced. June enhanced the lobby footage and isolated a frame. The man wore a scarf Ethan did not own. The face was close enough to make a viewer squint and say, "That could be him," but not close enough to be definitive. The possibility of a hired lookalike, a visual anchor, entered the investigation. Liam obtained internal documents from Harlan Voss's firm via a whistleblower. The playbook was clinical: identify a focal scandal, seed doubt, accelerate decisions. One slide read, create a plausible visual anchor, align timestamps with a public artifact, seed the narrative through anonymous drops. Another recommended using plausible stand-ins and cash payments to local vendors. Harlan denied wrongdoing. "We advise we don't fabricate," he said in a statement, but the document suggested a strategy that could manufacture reality. Maya and Ethan's marriage frayed. Private conversations leaked to Liam's inbox. A neighbor posted a grainy screenshot online. Ethan's past, he made a youthful mistake, a brief affair years ago, and was dredged up. Maya oscillated between fury and the desire to salvage what they had built. Ethan insisted on his innocence and accused Maya of letting suspicion become a weapon. Their fights were small, domestic, and devastating. Slammed doors, a kettle left to boil, a photograph turned face down. Maya began to sleep in the guest room. She volunteered at the school and kept a notebook of facts. She refused to be the woman who exploded. She would be the woman who documented. June's deeper forensic work found evidence of a cloned IMEI and a brief remote access session that suggested someone had used a spoofed device to ping towers. The defense would later argue that such techniques were unreliable. The prosecution argued they were deliberate. June also found a small, overlooked log entry, a Wi-Fi handshake at 11:40 p.m. between Ethan's phone and a public hotspot near the riverfront. The handshake was real, but the hotspot's logs showed a brief anomaly, a proxy that masked the true MAC address. Someone had tried to create plausible deniability. Marcus Lane, the temp who resembled Ethan, recanted under pressure. He admitted to being paid to walk past the hotel, but insisted he had not entered room 412. He said he had been told the job was for a film shoot. His bank deposit matched the amount Harold Finch had been paid. Marcus's testimony complicated the narrative: a hired passerby, a doctored timestamp, a cloned phone. The network had layers. Gabe Mercer, a low-level fixer who moved cash and arranged small favors, was arrested after a sting. He had coordinated payments between Harlan's firm and Harold Finch. Under interrogation, Gabe named a courier and a mid-level operative at Harlan's firm who had handled assets. The operative, Daniel Price, denied direct involvement in the folio but admitted to coordinating visuals. He invoked plausible deniability. He had been told the visuals were for a community outreach campaign. The riverfront development vote was delayed the week the folio surfaced. Councilman Peter Hale denied any connection to the scandal, but emails showed he had been in contact with Harlan's firm about managing sentiment. The timing suggested motive: destabilize opposition, create leverage. Liam published a piece tying the folio to the developer's interests. The town polarized. Some demanded accountability. Others warned against a rush to judgment. Prosecutors prepared to present a case that the folio and doctored footage were manufactured to discredit Ethan and influence civic decisions. The defense assembled a counter-narrative: coincidence, a private vendetta, and the unreliability of digital evidence. June's methods were scrutinized. The defense hired a counter-expert, Dr. Alan Pierce, who argued that metadata could be corrupted by benign processes and that timestamps were not infallible. June countered with a demonstration of the overwritten bytes and the courier trail. Maya prepared to testify. She rehearsed the facts, the timeline, and the emotional truth. She had found the folio. She had not planted it. She had sought facts before accusation. The courtroom was packed. The prosecution painted a picture of a manufactured scandal, a folio planted, a timestamp doctored, a lookalike hired, and a consultant paid to create a narrative. The defense argued reasonable doubt. The footage could be misinterpreted, the phone data could be spoofed, and the town's politics had created enemies. Maya sat in the gallery and felt the weight of being both witness and accused by implication. Ethan sat beside her, hands clenched. The jury watched, and the town watched through live streams and headlines. June took the stand. She explained the overwritten metadata, the courier trail, and the flash drive's chain of custody. She played the elevator clip and then the decoded bytes that revealed the original timestamp. She explained how timestamps could be altered and how the hotel's lobby camera, unaltered, showed a man at 10:12 who resembled Ethan but wore a scarf. Dr. Pierce cross-examined, suggesting June's methods were novel and that the overwritten bytes could be artifacts of file transfer. June remained steady, explaining the redundancy, checks in the corroborating courier, receipts. The jury listened to technical testimony and tried to translate it into a story they could hold. Prosecution presented cell tower evidence showing Ethan's phone pinging 2 towers simultaneously. June explained how a clone device or a spoofed IMEI could create such a pattern. The defense called a telecom engineer who testified that network anomalies happen and that the phone's internal GPS could be unreliable. The courtroom became a battleground of competing technical narratives. The judge instructed the jury to weigh the credibility of experts and the totality of evidence. A surprise witness emerged. Maya Lin, a junior analyst at Harlan Voss's firm, who had grown uneasy and leaked internal emails to Liam, she testified that the firm had discussed creating a visual anchor and had considered plausible stand-ins. She said she had not known the full extent of the plan but had seen invoices and asset lists. Harlan took the stand and denied authorizing illegal acts. He said his firm advised clients on messaging and that any illegal activity was the work of rogue operatives. The whistleblower's testimony undercut his denials. Jurors wrestled with competing realities: a folio with Maya's name, a doctored timestamp, a cloned phone, a hired passerby, and a consultant's playbook. Some jurors found the forensic evidence persuasive. Others were swayed by the defense's insistence on reasonable doubt. Maya's testimony was raw and human. She described the moment she found the folio, the way trust had frayed, and the slow, methodical way she had sought facts. Her voice trembled but did not break. Ethan testified too. He denied wrongdoing and described his work as an urban planner who had criticized the riverfront project. He said he had enemies but not the capacity to orchestrate such a campaign. On the penultimate day, Gabe Mercer returned to the stand with a plea deal. He described cash payments, courier runs, and a man in a suit who handed him a flash drive. He identified Daniel Price as the operative who coordinated assets. Price, under pressure, admitted to coordinating visuals but denied knowledge of the folios planting. The whistleblower's emails and Gabe's testimony painted a picture of a campaign that blurred the line between persuasion and fabrication. The orchestrator's network had been exposed in part, but not every hand had been held to account. The jury returned a mixed verdict. Harold Finch and Gabe Mercer were convicted of tampering and conspiracy. Daniel Price accepted a plea for obstruction and agreed to cooperate. Harlan Voss was acquitted of direct criminal charges but faced civil suits and reputational ruin. The developer's project stalled under regulatory scrutiny. Ethan was not criminally convicted. The jury found reasonable doubt about his direct involvement. Legally, he walked free. Morally, the town's judgment was less forgiving. The legal outcomes left a residue of ambiguity. Some defendants were punished. Others escaped full accountability. The developer's plans were delayed. Harlan's firm lost clients. The hotel tightened security and logging procedures. The duplication shop closed. Maya and Ethan tried to rebuild. They moved to a smaller apartment while the dust settled. Ethan took a job in a neighboring city to escape the town's glare. Maya started a community watchdog group focused on transparency in public projects and on the ethics of reputation management. Liam's reporting won awards for exposing the network. June continued her forensic work and published a paper on metadata authentication. Rowan received a commendation for following a complex trail. Months later, Maya received an anonymous package, a photocopy of the hotel's internal ledger with a name that did not match any real guest. The signature line was blank. Someone had created a folio template and left it unsigned. The photocopy suggested the folio in Ethan's jacket could have been a prop, a convincing artifact without a real origin. Maya held the photocopy and felt the story fold in on itself. The folio had been a prop. The footage had been doctored. The phone had been spoofed. The network had manufactured a reality that looked real enough to fracture a marriage and influence civic decisions. The final image is small and domestic. A hotel hallway photograph. Brass numbers on doors, a faint scuff on the carpet. The camera lingers on room 412's number plate. The folio's blank signature line is visible in a photocopy. The court had to choose which reality to accept. The law required a standard of proof that could not always capture moral truth. Maya and Ethan's marriage survived in a different form, quieter, more guarded. They learned to live with the knowledge that appearances can be manufactured and that sometimes the law must choose which version of time to accept. The town moved on, but the memory of how easily a narrative could be assembled lingered like a stain.
Did the story send chills down your spine? And from which city are you tuning in tonight? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed this dark tale, you can support me with a super thanks so I can keep uncovering more gripping true crime stories for you. Thank you so much for your support. It helps me bring even more suspenseful narratives to life. I'm looking forward to your thoughts on this mystery. There's a lot more waiting for you on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next chilling story with intrigue and respect.